Okay, so you just were introduced to slope-intercept form. We saw where it came from. You learned how to find the slope or identify the slope in the y-intercept from an equation in slope-intercept form. And now we're going to do one of the most useful things with slope-intercept form, and that is graph. Graphing with slope-intercept form is relatively quick, relatively painless, as long as you make sure and avoid a few common mistakes, which we will talk about. Okay? First step is to make sure the equation is in slope-intercept form. Now, how will we know if something is in slope-intercept form? The way we will know that is that y is isolated, which means by itself. Okay? So we look up here, we look at our equation, y is over here by itself. We've got y equals mx and b, so we're in good shape. Okay? Y is isolated. Step 2, and this is what we've been doing with some practice, is to identify m and b. You want to identify your slope and your y-intercept. So we're going to say m equals and b equals, and we're going to look up here at the equation. M is the number in front of x, the coefficient of x, that's your slope. So m is 1/2. B is the number at the back, it's the y-intercept. Back here I have a -1. Notice this minus belongs to this 1. That's important. B is -1. So we identify m and b. So far so good. Now step 3 is when we actually start to graph. We're going to plot b on the, and this is important, y-axis. Underline that y several times, exclamation point behind it. One of the most common errors is to plot the y-intercept on the x-axis, but the y-intercept goes on the y-axis. So I'm going to take -1, that means I'd go down 1, right? Because we said up here that b was -1, so the y-intercept is -1, and I put b, and it goes on the y-axis. That's important, okay? Now, the next thing, this will be related to when we found slope from a graph, but this is where you have to be careful and make sure you count correctly and make sure you go in the right direction. The next thing is we're going to use the slope Let me start over. We're going to say from B. That's important. From B, use the slope to plot other points. Okay? Couple of important things. We're going to start at B. We don't go back up to the origin. We're going to start here at B, and we're going to use what we know about slope. We've been saying for several weeks now that slope is delta y over delta x, right? That's the same thing as rise over run. Now, your high school teachers are going to prefer delta y over delta x, but you can think about it as rise and run. And in this case, the rise and the run equals 1/2, which means delta y, your change in y is 1, and your change in x is 2. The rise is 1, the run is 2. So what you do is you go back to B, you put your pencil on B, and we are going to rise 1. How do we rise 1? Well, we go up 1. So we're going to go up 1, and we're going to run 2. How do we do that? It's positive, so we're going to go right 2, and we have another point. So look here, this is like when we found slope from a graph. The rise is 1, the run is 2. Now, I want you to find 3 points. If you can get a third point, do it again. So from your new point, go rise 1, run 2, put your third point. If you can get 3 points on the graph, then you can draw the line through the points, put arrows on the end, and remember when we named lines, y equals 1/2 x minus 1. A couple of things to check. Notice, what kind of slope does this line have? 1/2 is positive, right? A positive slope. Did the line we drew have a positive slope? It does. Okay, so this is one example of how to graph a line in slope-intercept form. We will do more with it in class.